Burlesque, the art of striptease combined with vaudeville and storytelling. This centuries-old art form has experienced a Renaissance-like boom in the past few years, creating a range of performers with very different styles. From classic striptease to modern neo-burlesque to all-out gothic, one factor always remains the same. It is an expression of the performer's alter ego and personality. But what makes someone want to become a burlesque performer? And why do they do it?
I first became interested in burlesque basically through the aesthetic of it. Really loved sort of the look of it and the vintage clothing and things like that. And I decided to perform because this burlesque night that I used to attend ran an amateur competition, and I really wanted to get involved, so that's how I started performing.
Everything interests me about burlesque, from costumes right through to choreography and different concepts people come up with. I wanted to learn it because I've been to a few shows, really enjoyed it, kind of wanted to do it myself but never thought I would, and that's how it all began.
Inspiration for my performer name came from wanting to create an alter ego that was like quite the opposite to myself, so I wanted to sort of create a bit of a devious alter ego, something kind of seductive and a bit deadly, so that was the name for Deadly Nightshade.
She'll take your cash, your cards, and your pride. Tonight, she has stolen the biggest diamond in Vegas. The name is Deadly Nightshade. She should be considered armed and dangerous.
The meaning behind Raven Noir is I'm actually pagan, and most witches have a Wiccan name. It's a name that your coven or whatever calls you, and mine was Raven, and Noir means black, so Black Raven basically.
I would say my style of burlesque is quite traditional, but I think it's more vaudeville than sort of striptease or anything like that. I think I've definitely got my roots in the vaudeville side of burlesque. I like the theatre of it and the comedy of it and things like that, rather than just sort of straightforward striptease. I like to put a little bit of a story to things and incorporate a little bit of comedy in there as well.
I haven't really got a style really. I can incorporate any styles, but they've all got a bit of an edge, a darker edge. Even my costumes, which are like this one, which is pink and fluffy, still has a pentagram on it.
When it comes to building acts, it can take anything from a month to 6 months. I know performers that can put an act together in a month, but for me it's more like a 6-month process, because you need to sort of come up with a concept, find a piece of music, obviously practice it, draft your story, make sure everything's choreographed okay, and then sort of start building your costumes and things like that. And you often find that when you start bringing your costumes into a routine, you can find little sort of errors and things that you've not left room for that just don't work when it comes to costume and timing and getting your costume off in time and things like that. So then you kind of need to begin the whole process again and find different ways to incorporate the sort of main story along with a costume that works.
I would say the costuming is the biggest thing for me to get my head around, because I really love costumes and they've got to be kind of perfect for how I want them. So from actually thinking of a concept to actually getting it on stage, I'd say a good 6 months these days, because I kind of know what I'm doing a bit now, so I'd say about 6 months.
The reaction from friends and family for me has been pretty good. I've had a lot of support and things like that. I think my mum and dad were a little bit sort of apprehensive at first, but when they come to a show and saw what it was all about, I think all of their kind of worries about it were put to bed. I'd say out of everybody, it's kind of my dad that's still a bit, I think he just doesn't understand it, but I think that's probably typical of dads with little girls kind of thing. But I mean, he still comes to shows, he's still quite supportive and things. I just don't think he kind of understands it as much as my mum does, whereas my mum knows that it's kind of harmless and nothing to get worried about.
I expected my mum to kick off, and she didn't. She actually informed me that my great-grandmother had been a burlesque performer, and that's the first I'd ever known about it, or if I had been told in past, I just hadn't listened. The only person that has a problem with it is my son, and he's 21-year-old. All his friends want to come and see me, and he hates it. He doesn't mind anyone else doing it, but just not me, because I'm his mom. He thinks I should be knitting. But yeah, apart from that, everybody else has been absolutely brilliant.
Performing on stage is a very nerve-wracking experience. My nerves have never left me in 7 years, always worrying that your performances aren't up to scratch and things like that. But the overall sort of getting up there and performing when you think it's gone really, really well is such a euphoric feeling to come off stage, and you've got all the adrenaline and things like that, and it's just a really nice sort of feeling.
I think you go through various different stages when you go on stage. From that, just getting ready and chit-chatting backstage, then you start getting really nervous and feeling a little bit sick. Then you get on stage and you perform and all your adrenaline's going and everyone's watching you and it's just amazing. And then there's like, you walk off stage and you get this like little buzz and excitement and you can't wait to do it again.
The striptease side of burlesque, I have to say when I first started, my routines were very comedy based, very vaudeville based, because I didn't like the striptease element as much as I did the storytelling. But as time's gone on, I've found myself sort of being really comfortable with the striptease aspect, and sort of more and more of my routines are more heavily striptease based than they are story based, and I think it's just something that kind of comes with time, and I kind of really enjoy the striptease side now.
Don't mind the striptease side at all. In fact, if anything, that's part of what I love about it. So everyone's got it, flaunt it.
The next burlesque ambitions for me would possibly be a Sheffield Burlesque Festival. That would be a great one to do, but obviously it takes a lot of time and money, so there's got to be a lot of consideration going into that. But hopefully next year I should hopefully be launching the first Sheffield Burlesque Festival.
To go international, I'd love to go international. In certain shows that I want to do, and it's my kind of way of walking up my own ladder. And then next year I want to crack international.